Hello and welcome, everyone. I see some attendees joining us. Welcome, welcome. We have a very special guest today that I am very excited to introduce shortly. Today's session is all about leading your community with collective care, a topic that I think is really, really important right now. This is going to be very engaging and participatory, so we'll be using that chat feature quite a bit. So please feel free to use that throughout the session. That's also a place that you can share questions if you have any. And the last piece here is that you will need a pen and paper for today. So if you have that handy, great. Otherwise, now might be a good time to grab that. And while we're waiting to get started, we'd love for everybody to introduce themselves by placing their names, where they are from, and how you are feeling today as described as a color in the chat. So you can share your name, where you are from, and how you are feeling as described as a color. So looks like we have a theme so far. Some purple, yellow, great.
Green and grateful.
Green,
I like
love
that.
that. Orange, wow, we are slowly developing a rainbow here. Well, if you've just joined us and you're still adding that to the chat, feel free to continue to do so. Otherwise, we are going to move along to our next slides because we've got a lot we want to cover in this amount of time. So as far as our agenda goes, in case there is anyone here that is not familiar with Move This World, we want to make sure that we introduce ourselves before we dive into the work. Then we'll be doing a couple of exercises together. We'll do one that is a little bit more community oriented and the other that is a little bit more personal, more self-reflective. We'll be modeling this and we'll be inviting this group to participate in the chat. And then we'll close out with some intentional breaths before we wrap up. Before doing any of that, though, we did want to introduce ourselves and our very special guest that we have here today. I can kick us off. My name is Kendall. I'm the Director of Impact at Move This World. I've been with Move This World for 5 years now. And in that time period, I've been able to use my background in social work to help build and grow Move This World's program. So I've gotten to work with many schools that are implementing the program, gotten to facilitate some of our professional development sessions, and also been able to work behind the scenes on some of our program development. So I will kick it over to Kelly to introduce herself.
Hello, I am Kelly Ridgway. I'm a program manager with Move This World. I've been with Move This World for almost 2 years. Prior to that, was a teacher for about 13 years, primarily in the elementary side. Was a big part in implementing SEL in the buildings where I was located. And so really thrilled now to be working with Move This World with districts across the country and teachers and students and administrators doing this super, super important work. So really, really thrilled to be here. And we are super excited and thrilled that Dr. Sonia Matthew is joining us today. So I'm going to kick it over to her, to our special guest, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Kelly and Kendall. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Sonia Matthew. I'm an assistant principal with Charles County Public Schools in Maryland. I've been an assistant principal for 3 years, 2 years at the middle school level and 1 year here at the elementary level. And I have been leading the Move This World efforts for the past 3 years. And I've had so much fun doing it. So I'm so delighted to be here. I love the fact that we can provide our students with tools for social and emotional wellness, as well as our staff, so they can be so great and well and happy and safe in school, as well as outside of school. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sonia. All right, so now that we've introduced ourselves, we'd love to know who is in the room with us today. So we're going to launch a poll so that you can share what your role is, because we'd love to get a sense of who is in the room today.
Want to see who else participating with us today, so go ahead and click your role there.
Seeing some of these results coming in, which is great. All right, so we'll end that poll and let everyone see the results. So it looks like we've got a mix of folks. We
Great
have,
mix.
yeah, quite a variety of different roles present here today, which we love to see. We have some administrators, looks like we have some teachers, and then we have a lot of others.
Feel free to add in the chat what your other role is if you're willing to share. Super interested to see
Yes,
what those are. I know we didn't have all the choices, but feel free to add that in the chat for us as well.
I was going to say the same thing, Kelly. We'd love to see what other roles are represented. Great. So thank you all. Okay, perfect. All right. So real quick, we wanted to make sure that we gave a quick description of who we are. If there's anyone that is familiar with Move This World and uses our program, we're so excited that you are here. But for those of you that may not know about Move This World or are just becoming familiar with us, we are a program that works with schools, educators, students, communities across the country to strengthen some of those really foundational skills in students, like our emotional intelligence, our self motivation, our self regulation, resilience, communication, leadership skills, and so much more. And we do this through our student facing curriculum, which is actually a video based curriculum. You'll see on the screen students following along with one of our videos. And those videos are engaging and participatory. They leverage all sorts of different creative practices like movement and other things to make this a really engaging and impactful experience for students and teachers. In addition to our student-facing curriculum, we do also work with schools and districts to support professional development for educators and adults. And today is really going to give you a taste of some of that. We're going to be practicing some snackable strategies. So a couple of exercises that are bite-sized. They are great to do independently, to kick off the staff meeting, or even to do with your students. These again are going to give you a feel for what our staff wellness experiences look like. These sessions can range in topics from anything from self-care practices to team and community building, leading with empathy, and so much more. So without further ado, we're going to kick off our first exercise. I'm going to kick it over to Kelly, who will be walking us through that.
Thank you, Kendall. All right, we are going to start with an exercise called a stretch and share. We will model this for you, but then we also ask you to participate if you're willing in the chat with this exercise. So in facilitating this in person with a group of your own peers or staff members, the best scenario is kind of being in a circle situation. But what I want you to do, we're going to share a stretch that you are going to model for the group, and the group will model that back. So I'll do a simple stretch in just a moment. And while doing that, I'm going to ask that you describe a day in your role as a meal. What kind of food? We're going a little abstract here. So how would you describe a day in your role if it were being described by a meal? So I'm going to go first. I'm going to go with a simple neck roll. And I would describe a day in my role as a big, beautiful, colorful salad. So lots of different ingredients, lots of different things going on at the same time. There's going to be some cheese in there and some tomatoes and onions, and then a nice little surprise of some mandarin oranges. So mine would definitely be a big, beautiful mixed up salad. And I will kick it off to Sonia. Sonia, how would you describe a day in your role as a meal, and what is your stretch?
So I am thinking about oysters. Oysters are very chewy and you can just, they're messy and you have to get through them. And, there's a pearl, right? At the end of all that chewing and all that mess. And so my stretch is really the shoulders, like just repeatedly, kind of like the chewing. I guess it's kind of like chewing up and down, around and around. Feels great. So that's my meal and my stretch.
Thank you.
So my stretch is going to be a nice arm stretch. You can start with your right arm. And then we'll switch to the left arm. I think if I had to describe a day in my role, it would be kind of like Kelly's, but it would be a great big stew. So there's lots of different things in this stew. Every vegetable you can imagine, maybe a protein in there. Because it feels as though I'm always working on lots of different things, and it's hearty, it's good, it's positive, I enjoy it. But it's made up of all sorts of different things. That would be mine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've got some great answers in the chat here. Tacos, they can be full of anything, but also fall apart and become a mess pretty quick. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And barbecue ribs smell so good, look good, but by the time you're finished, you're a mess. Those are fantastic. Awesome. Thank you
Those are
for
great.
sharing those. Thank you. Thank you. So, Sonia, how do you think kicking off a staff meeting with an exercise like this would impact the group?
Yeah, so a lot of it is really the affect that you bring as a facilitator. So when you're leading this professional development and you're starting it this way, it's kind of different. But if you're positive about it and if you have bought into the idea that it does really set the tone, then it's going to affect how it's received. And from my experience, I'm always very excited to just try different things like this. And I really get into it. And I get that excitement just really brings that kind of energy to the staff.
Awesome. Awesome. And why do you think it's important to build in that time for exercises like this?
Yeah, it breaks the monotony. It's always, it tends to be about the work and which is important, but it is important to set that tone and to just kind of, take that breather, just reset, renew, and just, center ourselves.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. We've got a few other answers in the chat. A pie that you eat with your hands. It's very sweet and sticky, but messy. A 3-course meal. Yes, yes. Let's say a Caesar salad. Important ingredients and really enjoyable. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. That's fantastic. Thank you for participating in that. And I'm going to kick it over to Kendall to transition into our next exercise, which is a little more personal and reflecting.
Yes. So now we'll move on to an exercise that we call character in a novel. This one, as Kelly mentioned, is going to be a little bit more self-reflective in nature. This is where you will need a sheet of paper and something to write with. So if you didn't have those materials before, feel free to grab them. Otherwise, we're going to start with just a quick breathing exercise. So I'm going to invite everyone to either close your eyes or cast your gaze towards the ground, whatever you feel more comfortable with. You can relax your shoulders. Feel your feet planted into the floor beneath you. Let's just start by taking one collective breath together. So we'll take a deep breath in and out. As you continue to breathe, you can do so at your own pace, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Now I'm going to invite you to imagine that you have just been placed as a character in a novel. Every scene, every chapter, every character, every detail in this novel has a purpose. What does this novel look like? Why did the author place you there? What is your purpose? What do the chapters of this novel look and feel like? And if you had to divide it into 3 chapters based on your life right now, what would those 3 chapters be? Let's let all of these details come to mind as we take a final collective breath together. We'll take a deep breath in and out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and look back up. All right, so kind of similar to the last exercise, we're all going to be engaging in this. We're going to take a couple of minutes though, and come up with the 3 chapters that represent our life right now. So we're going to separate our life into 3 chapters, and we'll take about 2 minutes to do this. And I invite this group to come up with the titles of these chapters. And along with those, you can either add a brief description, and that can be a couple of ideas, it can be a sentence or two, or you can include a quick drawing for each of your chapters. But we'll take about 2 minutes for this. Sonia, Kelly, and myself will model it, and then we'll invite the group to share in the chat. But first, we'll just take 2 minutes. So I will start that timer. And you can pull out that sheet of paper and something to write with and come up with those 3 chapters. So we will get started. take about another 30 seconds. All right, and time is up. Those 2 minutes went by quite fast. I don't know how everyone else felt. So we'll take a moment now and share ours real quick. Just like that last exercise, we encourage and invite the audience to also share theirs in the chat. And I can kick us off. I told myself that I would try to plan ahead for this. But then I decided that I would be a little bit more authentic with it. So these were the chapters that came to mind. I'll just show my artwork is definitely nothing that great. But my chapters were Curiosities and Wonders. That was my first chapter. Lessons and Discoveries was chapter 2. And chapter 3 was Reflections and Growth. And I probably struggled the most with the third chapter. And I've done this before, but every time I do it, I come up with something different. So I'll take it over to Kelly to share her chapters.
All right. Thank you. I did not draw. I spared everybody. My 3 chapters are, and I'll tell the 3 chapters, then go back and say a little bit. My first chapter is the seedling. My second chapter is the sprout, and my third chapter is the harvest. And so the seedling is just the beginning, the nurture and care, and occasionally not growing at the pace that I would care for. The sprout, sometimes too much sun, sometimes too much, not enough water, was in that second chapter. And then the third chapter, the harvest, where I'm going and my future rewards for the work that I've been doing in the first 2 chapters. So thank you. I'll pass it over to Sonia.
So I'm going to be very quick. 3 boxes. I'm in the box. I'm in the box, but I'm reaching out of the box. And my current situation in this part of my life, I am outside the box, y'all. So that's that's what I came up with.
I love it. And I'm seeing in the chat a couple that have been shared. Chapter 1, home. Chapter 2, the one. Chapter 3, now it gets fun. Chapter 1, peace of mind, home. Chapter 2, passion, work. Chapter 3, other, everything else. So for the sake of time, I want to make sure that we hear from Sonia on this. So the last exercise that we did was a little bit more community-based. Something like this is a little bit more personal. What do you think the benefit of also creating space for more individual self-reflection exercises is for teens?
Yeah, so I really feel that we get to know our participants, which is important, right? In schools, like our team, because you can really tell a lot about these, just in some respects, what they really value. What and where they are in their journey. So for my example, just being outside the box, so that really probes some questions that you could ask. What do you mean by that? And not in that space, but just as we continue to build connections with our team, those are quite, I'm intrigued by what you said. Tell me more. So I think it really builds that trust and fosters that community.
That's great. Thank you for sharing, and thank you to everyone that shared in the chat as well. So for the sake of time, I am going to move along to the last little piece here. One thing that we wanted to call out is it can be really beneficial to make the time to also reflect on what we learned from these experiences. So if you were to do this with your team in a staff meeting, or even with a group of students, asking some of these follow-up questions is really key. So things like, how did you feel when doing this? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about this group? What felt easy or challenging? How can we use this moving forward? Those are just some examples of questions that, again, can be key for creating a space where we're discussing different key themes and ideas. And as Sonia, as you pointed out, really uncovering a lot about ourselves. So we wanted to leave this group with that a little bit. I know our time is super limited today, but we thought it was important still to acknowledge the importance of that reflection. So as you leave, we encourage thinking about these questions to yourself as well, maybe jotting down some ideas. To close intentionally, and I'll share my another slide in a moment that has some additional information on Move This World for anyone that's interested in learning more. But before doing that, we wanted to give this a nice little intentional close to tie a bow on the experience. So I'm going to invite everyone to, again, close your eyes or cast your gaze towards the ground. We'll do 2 collective breaths together. And this first breath is going to be a wish for yourself. So what is a wish that you have for yourself? Let's call that to mind as we take a deep breath in and out. And this second breath will be a wish for this group that is connected virtually and across the country with a common interest and goal in caring for one another and our communities. What wish do you have for this group? Let's call that to mind as we take a deep breath in and out. Great. And the last slide that we have here is just some information on Move This World. Feel free to scan that QR code if you're interested in learning more. We'll be sharing the recording to today's session. You can also find it on our website under resources and webinar. And we will be coming together again next month, April 16th, for a session on testing strategies for the season of testing that we will be, that is soon upon us. So thank you all so much for engaging in this work with us, participating. A huge thank you to our special guest, Dr. Sonia Matthew. And I hope you all found this helpful and that you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Bye
great
for
one.
now.